Well guys, I am right back into the Star Wars rabbit hole. You guys might have noticed that for a long time now, I have not been doing much in terms of Star Wars gaming news. The last thing I really covered was the Classic Collection, and before that, it was all LEGO Star Wars. Beyond that, I was so disappointed with the Star Wars landscape that I had kind of sworn it off, choosing instead to focus on modded games that were Star Wars related for my channel, or just non-Star Wars content in general, doing a lot of Army Men stuff, which I still plan on doing, World War II stuff, etc, etc. However, the Star Wars Classic Collection has dragged me right back on in, because with all of its failures, I have actually been having a lot of fun since the servers got patched, going and playing the multiplayer. Sure, there's still a ton of glitches and a ton of problems, but weirdly I am enjoying myself again. And it got me thinking, what other Star Wars projects are in the pipeline? I haven't checked in on this in quite some time. And then I realized just how many cancellations there have been in Star Wars gaming that I was excited for. So today, we're just going to be taking a look at Star Wars gaming in a nutshell right now. Talking about past projects that never came to fruition, projects that did come to fruition and were horribly disappointed, and just how abused the Star Wars community really is. You gotta feel bad for us at this point, because we are getting destroyed left and right by developers not wanting to put in time in their games, or just wanting to scrap it for a tax cut instead of actually releasing it. Now, the first game that I want to talk about here is Star Wars Battlefront 3. I'm not talking about EA's potential Star Wars Battlefront 3, we'll get at that a little bit later, but I'm talking about what would be the successor to the 2004 Star Wars Battlefront series, which would be Battlefront 3. Now, we actually have a little bit of footage of that game available to us, not a lot, but it was in the works, and it had some of the coolest ideas ever, like being able to go from the space battle above down to the ground infantry troops below and have an impact on the battle in both stages of the battle. That would have been so cool. It was clearly a very ambitious project, and of course, ended up getting scrapped. Now, we'll likely never see that iteration of Star Wars Battlefront 3, I just don't think that is ever going to happen. I think the closest we would come is if in the Classic Collection they decided for whatever reason, like, hey, we're gonna put out a demo that would be Star Wars Battlefront 3, which from a marketing perspective would have been genius. Throw in a demo of Star Wars Battlefront 3, it doesn't even have to be a working game, just have it semi-working, it would have gotten people buying that by the droves. Obviously they didn't do that, but I don't think beyond that we would ever see this game again. Very sad, because this would have been so cool. Beyond that, we have Star Wars 1313, or 1313, or 1313, however you want to say it. Which was also a canceled game. And this is in the older era of canceled games, because this is, you know, back in like 2013, something along those lines. And we do have, again, more footage of this game, which was leaked in 2022. And again, it just looks incredible. It looks like a great Star Wars game. The Star Wars universe is so ripe for video games of all genres. It's been proven, you know, first-person shooters, strategy games, grand strategy games. You can do it all in Star Wars, and we could have it all if they stopped canceling these amazing-looking projects. So these are two of the sort of classic Star Wars games that have ended up being canceled, and you know, boohoo, we've kind of gotten over these ones at this point, but the next ones are the modern state of Star Wars gaming, and really drive home the point that Star Wars fans right now are being abused in Star Wars gaming with the number of leaked or revealed projects that get scrapped or muddied with bureaucracy and just never end up actually seeing the light of day. The most recent of which is the canceled Mandalorian game. Now, this was recently revealed, like within the last couple weeks, to be canceled. It was actually going to be made by one of the Medal of Honor developers. So we could have been seeing a very cool, very gritty Star Wars game in the works. I mean, just saying, hey, the Medal of Honor lead developer is in on this project would make me want to buy this game automatically. It did make me want to buy this game automatically. However, it was canceled due to, and I quote, financial risk. Now, after learning about this game, it sounds like the least financially risky game to ever be released. The Mandalorian series was released recently, and despite a few of the episodes and seasons not having the greatest of reviews, The Mandalorian has single-handedly kept Star Wars alive for many casual fans, being something that people tune in for regularly whenever a new season is released. Mandalorian is a very, very popular property at this point, and while you're not actually going to be able to play as the Mandalorian in this game, you know, with Grogu and all that stuff, you would have been able to play as a Mandalorian, and essentially the way the game was played, because people have played this game, there were playtests. This game was like pretty far down the line. They had some results from this game. And so what you would have is basically like a hub world or a hub ship where you got to upgrade your Mandalorian, stuff like that, and then you took on bounties and went out into the world, into the galaxy, you know, trying to get those bounties fulfilled. And if you earned credits, you got to come back and upgrade your armor, you upgrade your ship, etc., etc. From what we understand, that is how this game would work. There's actually a Roblox game very similar to this, which I find to be hilarious. If you do want to play this concept, it does exist in Roblox. But either way, it sounds like a great concept. It's a very safe concept in my eyes, because you have this very successful Mandalorian property going on right now. It just makes sense. And not only that, the playtesters had very positive feedback. People were interested in finding out more of this game. They wanted to see more. That should be enough for a green light. If you are having very positive feedback in your playtests, and you have a super popular property right in front of you that your game is based upon, I don't see how that is a financial risk at all, but it does get canceled for financial risk. Then we have the canceled Knights of the Old Republic game, and this one really breaks my heart, because they have been doing a tug of war with this KOTOR game for forever. So this would have been a remaster of, well, more like a remake it seemed like from what I was hearing, of the original Knights of the Old Republic. Now, I thought this was a sure thing. There was so much hype, so much buzz behind it. It seemed like people were very excited. I was like, there's no way this one gets canceled. That would be really, really weird if it did. And then we find out, oh, it is getting canceled. It's not being worked on at all anymore. And then a few weeks later, we find out, oh no, they're actually transferring this game to a new company, and it is still being in the works. And then later we find out, oh yeah, it's in the works, but we're not going to promise that it's going to be released. It could still get shelved. What? Why do you, first of all, keep on having these leaks happen? And why would you announce this game in the first place if all of this is about to happen? I mean, surely they must have sensed that something was going to go down. So it's just very, very frustrating as a consumer to be excited about this game from our past. A game that we all, I think, want to get our hands on again, and just have it being pulled and pushed away from us. Getting news about it, getting that news rejected over and over again. It is just heartbreaking. And the very fact that someone's been quoted as saying that they can't promise that it will come out makes me feel like that they're working on it, but it's going to be sort of like a Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner type deal with Warner Brothers, where Warner Brothers has the finished movie. It is completed, ready for release, but they don't want to risk releasing it and having it flop, so instead they're going to use it as a giant tax write-off, which they can't do if they do release it. So that's the likely situation I'm feeling out right now with this, and it's probably because the only KOTOR style game we have currently is the MMO, and I don't think that's really a telling idea of what a KOTOR game would mean right now. And I think what they want to see is Knights of the Old Republic getting really popular or something along those lines. But they're not going to have that. They kind of have to risk releasing this to see if the property is still active. And I think it would be. I think a ton of people would play the crap out of this. But I think right now developers are like, oh, why didn't we work on a Mandalorian game? Well, guess what? You did, and you also shelved that. Marketing teams want to see proof of concept that something released is going to do well, And so they're funding these projects that have done well in the past, but there's no promising that they'll do well in the future or in present day. And so why not just not fund them in the first place, or just go in completely willing to release this even if it is a flop? Don't be so willy-nilly to release statements like we're not going to release it, we're going to release it, we're not going to release it. That is going to completely ruin your launch. It would be better to say nothing, release this, and just see what happens. Don't do this. It's worse for marketing, but you can tell executives are pushing and pulling on these properties so much that it's resulting in them getting all muddied. But not only that, we've also had games that, you know, clearly were probably being worked on. We don't have that confirmation, but more than likely they were being worked on, such as EA's Battlefront 3, which likely won't happen at this point, I'm thinking. It seems like EA, especially after they lost their exclusivity license with Disney, they're less keen on working on Battlefront, and I think also the disastrous launch of Battlefront 2, which was completely their fault, probably is playing in as a factor to them not wanting to do Battlefront 3. Now, I think a lot of people have turned around on Battlefront 2. The game is phenomenal now. It is fantastic. It still has a really solid player base, and I think a lot of people would be really hyped about getting into a Battlefront 3 if the release is good. There's no promising because EA is money-hungry goblins, but the fact that they shot themselves in their own foot and then fixed it, but then aren't willing to take advantage monetarily of that fix by releasing Battlefront 3 with the hype that Battlefront 2 is now good is crazy to me. And an executive has released a statement saying that there is, quote-unquote, not the same hunger for a sequel to Battlefront. I completely disagree. I think people at this point are very ready for a Battlefront 3. You know, 3 years ago, I was saying I don't think people care to see a Battlefront 3. I think they should continue to work on Battlefront 2. I made a video about it, I believe, which got a lot of hate, but honestly, I still stand by that fact that, you know, 2 or 3 years ago, more like 3 to 4 years ago, Star Wars Battlefront 2 just needed to be worked on in and of itself, and we don't need that big of a jump into Battlefront 3 because the graphics hadn't improved that much in the gaming industry yet. There weren't that many great concepts for Battlefront 3 that I'd been hearing. I firmly believe Battlefront 2 should just be worked on. Battlefront 3 isn't something we needed at that point. Now I completely disagree. I think Battlefront 3 now, with the current graphics I'm seeing in new age games, with some of the concepts I've seen people draw up of what you can include with Battlefront 3, I am absolutely on board with seeing a Battlefront 3 released now. Again, it might be something that some developers have worked on over at, you know, EA, DICE, whatever. I could totally see that. You know, it would be shocking if no work at all had been done on it. Even just pitching ideas and things like that, I am positive it's been done. I don't know how far along they are, but it really sounds like that they're not going to be doing anything of the sort as of right now. Which brings us to the Classic Collection, which this would be one thing that I would see proving that Battlefront needs a sequel for Battlefront 3, or trequel. But that seems to have been wiped away. The Classic Collection was a complete disaster on launch, tons of hate going to the developers Aspire's way, and I don't blame them. I was one of the haters. I still am, kinda. Battlefront Classic Collection was a complete missed opportunity to rebuild hype around Star Wars games. And there was a ton of hype, but then they botched it. The problem is that executives nowadays, they see a botched release and they don't go into the nitty-gritty and see, oh, this was actually completely our fault. No, they blame it on the consumer and they go, oh, they just don't want this. They don't want to see Battlefront 3. They don't want to see the Battlefront property succeed. That's how executives' mindset works. I've witnessed it firsthand when I used to work for a gaming company, was that people, instead of looking deeper into what the consumer is saying, they don't look at that. They look at the bigger picture that, hey, this failed. If we go ahead and greenlight the next thing, that's going to fail as well. And we really need the next thing to succeed. So we're going to play super safe and release another mobile game or something along those lines. it's sad because the Classic Collection could have been that thing that brought together Star Wars fans and really proved to developers that we want more Star Wars properties. However, the developers completely botched the release, leading to a lot of hate, and now the executives are going to see that hate and go, okay, clearly we don't want to do another Star Wars Battlefront game for the foreseeable future. It's frustrating, but that is truly how their minds work. That's how they think. Not intelligent ones. Intelligent CEOs don't think that way, but sadly we don't live in a world of intelligent CEOs most of the time. So all of these canceled or disaster release Star Wars games is resulting in the state of Star Wars gaming being a complete disaster in 2024. And I don't want to leave this video on a completely negative note, because this has been quite negative, I'll be honest, and I'm just a little bit frustrated. But the good news is that we do have some things that clearly are working, like the Jedi series, Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor. Clearly, very, very good blockbuster hits for EA. Very, very good games that will likely get more sequels to come. Single-player Star Wars is being fulfilled at the moment. Now, would I like to see more? Yeah, absolutely. I would take some more. But at the very least, we have that series proving itself to be capable and actually being, I think, a cause for single-player games to be seeing a resurgence in the current era. That's just my opinion right there. Not only that, the LEGO games. LEGO Skywalker Saga, it had its issues, sure, I see a lot of complaints about it, but overall, I think LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga was a complete smash hit. It was fantastic, and you can always count on LEGO to bring us some good product. So that was one of the beautiful things that we have received recently for Star Wars. Apparently some of the Star Wars mobile games are pretty good too. I'm not a big mobile gamer, I just frankly don't care, and so I would just much rather prefer to save my energy for the actual big game releases and things like that. Not only that, we've also seen some multiplayer success with Star Wars properties through proxy games like Fortnite, for example. Star Wars has been a huge smash success over there, with the characters being purchased out the wazoo from the item shop and stuff like that. So clearly Star Wars does have a hungry fan base wanting more. But right now, it's up to the developers to actually give us more, and that is where the disaster in Star Wars gaming currently lies. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. This was a bit of a rant mixed with information and stuff like that. I hope you did enjoy. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Until we get some good games released, I do want to try out the 501st Journal in Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection, just because I think it would be fun to play. I might fiddle around with some of the Harrison Fog mod as well to come, but beyond that, I'm going back into my little modding corner. I might start covering more Star Wars news again, because I forgot how fun it is to cover gaming news, something I used to do a lot and don't do as much anymore, so let me know if you want to see more of that. Either way guys, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and comment down below. I'll see you on the next one. Peace. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. Be sure to click that subscribe button for more content, and hit the notification bell if you'd like to be alerted to whenever I live stream or upload. Thanks so much.